I threw my dad a birthday party. He got drunk and told everyone I was his biggest mistake, so I had him thrown out. Hey everyone. Before we kick off today's video, I've got a favor to ask. We've noticed our channel isn't getting as much love lately, and subscribing is one of the easiest ways you can help us out. It's quick, free, and it means we can keep bringing you awesome content. Your support really means a lot, so let's work together to keep this channel growing. Thanks a bunch. Now, let's dive into the video. So, my parents split up when I was just 6. They got married really young, and once the honeymoon phase fizzled out, things got pretty rocky. They were both working crazy hours trying to pay off bills and student loans, which seemed to keep piling up. Just when they were about to call it quits, my mom discovered she was pregnant with me. I guess they decided to give their marriage another go, but honestly, it was a major mistake. My first memories are filled with them shouting at each other, like, every single morning. My mom would get mad at my dad for leaving messes everywhere and not helping out, while my dad would complain about her cooking and call her useless. He'd pick on her for making pancakes or whatever, just because he wasn't in the mood for it. He'd always compare her to his mom and regret marrying her, and she'd shoot back that she should have married someone richer and that having me was a mistake. That was basically my everyday life. To drown out their yelling, I'd try to focus on playing with my food, but it left a pretty deep scar on me. I felt like they blamed me for why they were stuck with each other. My dad started coming home really late to avoid us, and he'd brush off my mom's complaints about being overworked by saying his job was way more important. If I wanted to hang out or play with him, he'd be cool for half an hour, then start getting annoyed and call me needy. It stuck with me, and even now, I have this fear of appearing needy with people. As time went on, things at home just got worse. My mom would drink in the evenings, and my dad would come home drunk, crash on the couch, and just pass out. They both started missing work most days, and sometimes they wouldn't even get me ready for school on time. Weekends were the worst. I'd often go to bed hungry because they were either too drunk or hungover to cook or grab takeout. It was just this endless loop of chaos and neglect. Looking back, I realize what they did could have landed them in serious trouble, but as a kid, I didn't have anyone around to look out for me. Teachers would sometimes chat with me and call my parents, but because there were no signs of physical abuse, no one ever called CPS. As I got older, I somehow became the peacekeeper between my parents. Even though I was just a kid, I felt like it was my job to keep things calm at home. I knew the stuff they hated about each other, like how my mom couldn't stand my dad leaving his socks everywhere, so I'd pick them up, hoping they'd fight less. My dad hated it when the TV was too loud, so I'd convince my mom to turn it down before he got home. It was tough trying to manage their tempers and distract them from fighting, and no matter what I did, they'd end up arguing anyway. It was just a heavy load for a kid to carry, and I constantly felt overwhelmed and helpless. I wanted a peaceful home where I felt safe and loved, but instead, I lived in this constant state of stress and anxiety. I even saw them get physical sometimes, with my mom locking herself in the bathroom to protect herself. One night, she threw a bottle at my dad, it hit him, and he started bleeding. That's when things escalated, and I had to call 911. Some of the memories are blurred, but I do remember the cops questioning me about the fight. CPS finally got involved, and my parents were warned that if it happened again, I'd be taken away. In front of the officers, they acted like they cared, but I wasn't so sure. They promised me they'd try to be better after the cops left, but that didn't last long. Even though my parents tried to save their marriage, it was obvious they just weren't meant for each other. They had totally different priorities and ways of communicating, and it was taking a toll not only on them but on me too. Thankfully, when I was 13, they finally called it quits for good. It was a relief to think the constant chaos was ending, but it also meant a new chapter with its own set of challenges. I had to split my time between their places, and my mom got child support from my dad to help make ends meet. Back then, supporting both of us was tough for my mom. She struggled to find a job at first, but, thankfully, my uncle, who's actually her cousin, stepped in. He managed to get her a desk job as a secretary. She ended up working there for a bunch of years under this really nice and patient boss who paid her pretty well. I got to meet her boss and his family at some work parties, and honestly, I'm so grateful he hired my mom. It literally saved us, helping to cover all the bills at home. Meanwhile, my dad was on a downward spiral with drinking. Every visit with him was a nightmare. He was either passed out or hooking up with random women, which made things super awkward. I hated it but didn't dare tell my mom because that would just kick off another round of their massive arguments, and I was over it. Over the years, Dad dated different girlfriends one after another. The first lasted about a year, another 6 months, and then he was with someone for 3 years until he cheated on her. I noticed he had a type, single moms with 1 or 2 kids. He'd get close to them, post pics of their kids everywhere, and even celebrate birthdays with them. Meanwhile, he'd forget my birthday and other important stuff unless my mom reminded him. He'd also push me to bond with these kids, telling me they'd be my future siblings, which I couldn't stand. I got that he was single and could date whoever, but pretending to be this doting dad to everyone else while ignoring me was just too much. I remember this father-daughter dance at school. I had a feeling he'd bail, and of course, he did, claiming he had to fix something at his girlfriend's house. Luckily, one of my mom's cousins took me, and I still had a great time. As I grew up, Dad distanced himself more. He stopped inviting me over, saying he'd be out drinking or partying, and my mom didn't argue. Things hit a low when out of the blue, he asked me out to dinner. I thought he wanted to spend some quality time with me, but surprise. He shows up in a flashy car, honking outside, with a blonde woman and an older guy in tow. At dinner, he introduced me to his new girlfriend, Gina, and her son Robin, who was 5 years older and not thrilled to meet me. Gina was polite but kept it short with me. Dad was all about how awesome Gina and Robin were, especially Robin's football skills. Before I knew it, Dad announced he was marrying Gina. My mom and I went to the wedding, but I felt like an outsider. Robin was my dad's groomsman, and they were acting like best buddies. I was jealous and mad, and I think my mom noticed because she gave me a comforting hug. At the wedding, Dad was having a blast, like it was his first wedding ever. He never called me over for a family photo. The only time he spoke to me and my mom was to check if we were having fun. I felt invisible, like I didn't belong in his world anymore. Watching him all happy with his new family, while I felt my world shatter, was tough. Robin fit right into Dad's life, taking the son spot without missing a beat. When it was time to leave, Dad didn't even hug me goodbye. I think that was the last time I saw him genuinely happy, laughing with them. After that, I stopped trying to reach out. Unless I texted or called, he didn't miss me. Months passed, and though he kept up with child support, he never checked in. When college time came, I made sure to pick a university far away, a fresh start for me. So, I wanted to get as far away from the city as possible, even though my mom wasn't thrilled about it. I just needed to escape that miserable place and all the bad memories. Mom mentioned that Dad had turned things around, got a better job and quit drinking. Months after I started college, Dad finally called. He acted all surprised that I was grown up, which made me roll my eyes because, he never really paid attention. He tried some small talk, then mentioned that Robin, who got a solid job in the same city as my uni, and that he'd be visiting with Gina and wanted to see me too. I said it was okay, and despite myself, I agreed, because I missed him, regardless of his history with Mom. I just wanted them both to love me like a kid deserves. The day we were supposed to meet, I got all dressed up and waited at a cafe. Hours passed, and I was left hanging, sipping my coffee and staring at the door. Calls to him went unanswered. My mom called too, worried something might have happened. 3 hours later, Dad called, saying he got caught up watching a football game with Robin and lost track of time. It felt like a gut punch, hearing him so nonchalant after I'd been so excited to see him. Gina and Robin were still with him, I could hear. I told him I waited alone for hours, and he just said I should have left after the first hour. His apologies were so weak, I was mad and just hung up, then blocked him. He must have called Mom, but she had my back, basically telling him he failed as a dad. That night, I cried a ton, but the next morning, I just felt guilty and sad. I guess Mom's words hit home because the next morning, I saw a long email from Dad apologizing, asking me to unblock him. He wrote about not realizing how his actions affected me, pledging to do better. I didn't unblock him though, had to look out for my mental health. For months, he sent emails, wishing me on birthdays or holidays, but I never responded. Meanwhile, Mom would visit me at university, and I got used to cherishing those moments with the only parent who seemed to truly care. Then, in my third year, I got a bunch of missed calls from a hospital and Mom's family. When I called back, I found out Mom was in an accident and in critical condition. My heart sank. I packed overnight, and thankfully, my roommate drove me home fast. At the hospital, I saw Mom with all these tubes, and it was too much to handle. She'd slipped into a coma, and 3 days later, she passed away. They said she didn't suffer, but I hardly remember anything from those days, it's all a blur. I broke down, collapsing into Dad's arms, forgetting my anger. I was just glad someone was there for me. Dad took charge of the funeral, making sure it was beautiful, and Robin and Gina tried their best to be supportive. Mom's relatives were there, bringing meals to make sure I was eating. I basically just laid in bed, unable to do anything. No idea how I got through those days, but somehow, I did. In Mom's will, she left everything to me: the house, car, and savings, enough to finish college without loans. Dad promised to cover any extra costs, so I was okay financially. I didn't want to sell the house yet, so I decided to rent it out to a nice couple. I started making some money and decided to keep the car for myself since it made getting to my part-time job a lot easier. After a while, I returned to university because I was missing out on a lot of classes. My dad called and messaged me regularly to make sure I was okay. It was tough going on without my mom, and everything around me felt empty. Thankfully, my classmates helped me catch up with my assignments, and most of my professors were pretty understanding. During this time, I got to know Gina and Robin better because they often came with my dad to visit me on weekends. For the first time, it felt like my dad was treating me like family, taking me to football games and dinner. Initially, I didn't notice anything off about Gina, but after spending more time with her and my dad, I realized she could be a bit dramatic and judgmental. She'd argue with my dad like a teenager and get mad if things didn't go her way. For example, if we wanted burgers after a game and she wanted pizza, she'd pout in the driveway until my dad gave in. Gina also spent a fortune on nails and hair and threatened divorce when my dad complained about it. She'd pass judgment on other girls' outfits, using derogatory terms, which really bothered me as a young woman. She'd brag about being the popular girl in high school, saying today's girls couldn't compare to her peak self. It was so cringy, I had to bite my tongue and just nod. Things got worse when Robin got a girlfriend. Gina would ask the poor girl rude questions, like how many guys she'd been with and if she used protection, claiming women just wanted to trap her son. Robin would be visibly uncomfortable, and if he confronted his mom, she'd cry to my dad, acting like she meant well. I realized I needed to steer clear of Gina as much as possible without my dad noticing. Whenever he visited, I'd ask for some alone time, but Gina kept interrupting with calls. I later found out she was tracking my dad's phone to check if he was really with me or someone else. A year went by, and on the anniversary of my mom's passing, I was a wreck. My dad and I had planned to spend the day together, visit her grave, then lunch. I made it clear I didn't want anyone else there, but he brought Gina along. She seemed like she was on a road trip, munching on chips and playing music. When she saw me crying over my mom's photos, she insensitively asked why I was still crying after a year. I hoped my dad would defend me, but he didn't. At my mom's grave, Gina refused to come out of the car because of the heat and kept rushing us. I couldn't believe she tagged along just to complain. When it was time for lunch, despite my dad and me preferring something else, we ended up having Chinese food because Gina insisted. I barely ate at the buffet, and Gina noticed. Instead of leaving me be, she criticized me for bringing down the vibe, even saying if she passed away, she'd never want Robin to be so sad. So, there I was, feeling all my emotions on edge. I just couldn't hold back anymore and went on this epic rant about how she had no right to tell me how to deal with my grief, especially since I was the one who just lost my mom. I didn't stop there, either. I told her that if she honestly thought I was crashing the vibe, she should have just stayed home. All I wanted was to mourn my mom and chat with my dad. Both my dad and Gina looked really shocked by my outburst, and honestly, I felt pretty embarrassed. So, I made a dramatic exit from the restaurant to cool off. Later, my dad came out with this serious look, telling me he got where I was coming from, but I should be nicer to his wife, who had taken time to be there with me. I was like, why is she even here when I just wanted to hang out with you? My dad explained that Gina thought I was leaning too much on him and, as an adult, shouldn't always be alone with him. Hearing that hit me hard and brought back memories of my childhood when my dad would get mad if I wanted more of his attention and call me needy. It made me miss my mom even more because she never made me feel bad for being emotional. The car ride home was silent, and Gina wasn't talking to me, even though I tried to apologize. A few days later, my dad mentioned how Gina was still angry about what happened, suggesting I should apologize over dinner. He said it was all my fault and that they'd been fighting because I embarrassed her. That suggestion made me angry, and I flat out refused. I told him Gina's reactions were immature and that I'd already apologized during the car ride. Despite my dad trying to change my mind, I stood my ground. Since then, things between me and Gina never really improved. I'm not sure what she told Robin, but he stopped talking to me too. My dad's the only one who occasionally visits, like during my college graduation or when I got my first job. He kept asking me to apologize to Gina, saying we could all be a family again, but I never did. Over the years, Gina and I only see each other when necessary and pretty much ignore each other if we're in the same space. Losing my mom still hurts, but I've grown up and learned to handle my emotions better. I eventually sold my mom's house after graduation and got myself a cozy condo in the city for work. I still stay connected with my mom's family when I can. I started dating Harry, and we're really happy together. My dad has met him a few times, and they bond over golf and football. Everything was going smoothly until this recent hiccup. My dad was turning 50, and since it was a big deal, I wanted to throw him a party. Weeks ahead, I asked if he was up for it, and he was thrilled, saying he wanted to bring Gina and Robin and hoped the party could mend fences. I had my doubts but didn't push back since so much time had passed. I thought, why not, if Gina's okay with it too? I planned and paid for everything at a fancy restaurant. All my dad and his family had to do was show up in their best outfits. That evening, Harry and I got to the venue first. My dad, Gina, and Robin arrived an hour late. I tried calling my dad, but no response, so I knew something was up. When they finally showed, I noticed my dad had been drinking as Robin helped him walk. Dad gave me a big grin and hugged me, while Gina completely ignored me and hugged Harry, who looked awkward. Robin nodded at me and helped my dad sit. I asked what happened, and Robin said Dad had started celebrating early. I shook my head, remembering how I grew up watching my dad get drunk nightly and knew how embarrassing it could get. Gina laughed at my reaction and loudly told me to lighten up, saying Dad was just having fun. Her comment annoyed me because this was an expensive place, and if my dad started acting out, we could get banned forever. When the waiter came with our main courses, my dad seemed, "Wow, what a night that was." So picture this, we're all sitting around for dinner, and my dad was just completely out of it. He couldn't even hold his fork straight, you know? Harry and I were just trying to focus on eating while Gina and Robin kept cracking up and pointing at him. Then, the wine comes around, and my dad, already tipsy, just keeps on drinking despite me trying to get him to chill. All of a sudden, he stands up and announces he wants to make a toast. I was like, oh boy, here we go. So I grab my glass, and he starts saying how grateful he is to be turning 50 with his awesome family, going on about how lucky he feels to have Gina and Robin. That was fine, but then he goes into this whole thing about how divorcing my mom was the best decision ever cause she drove him nuts. Gina thought it was hilarious, but I was fuming. Then he started saying that meeting and marrying Gina saved his life because things were pretty bleak before they came along. All the while, Gina and Robin are just egging him on, like this is okay to say in front of me. As if that wasn't bad enough, he turns to me and slurs that his biggest regret was marrying my mom, implying that my existence was a mistake. He even joked about me leaving him alone to celebrate his birthday with his real family. Gina and Robin laughed like it was the funniest thing ever. I took a deep breath, trying to hold it together, and decided I couldn't take it anymore. I called over a waiter and asked for security. They didn't even hesitate since Dad was causing such a scene. A couple of guards showed up, and one said, "Sorry sir, but we're going to have to ask you to leave," motioning towards the exit. My dad's face was red from embarrassment, and he tried to get me to stop them, but I wasn't backing down. Gina yelled that I was humiliating him, but I didn't care, and neither did security. So they all got escorted out, with Gina and Robin shouting angrily at me. Afterwards, I felt a wave of emotions and apologized to everyone around, even leaving a big tip. Since then, Gina and Robin have been blowing up my phone with nasty texts about how I ruined the evening and should have just left if I was so embarrassed by Dad. My dad's tried to call me a few times, but I'm not taking his calls. So here I am, asking on Reddit if I was wrong for kicking my dad out after everything he said. Update 1. Wow, this really blew up fast. Thanks everyone for the support. I didn't expect so many people to agree with my decision, and even though I appreciate it, let's not say super mean things about my dad. He's still my dad, and I came here to see if what I did was right or wrong, and I think I've got my answer. Update 2. It's been a few weeks now. My dad hasn't reached out again, and Gina and Robin have stopped their messages too. Apparently, my post went viral and Robin might have recognized it and sent the link to my dad. I guess he's seen how many people think he and Gina were out of line. Not sure how things will go between us moving forward, but I'm definitely not ready to forgive him yet. Update 3. Hey folks, it's been about 7 months since my last update. I can't believe how much better things are now. I started going to therapy, which has helped me unload all that childhood baggage. I totally get why people say it makes them feel lighter. I decided to cut ties with my dad and his side for good, no explanations needed. Life's been great, and I'm so lucky to have a wonderful boyfriend like Harry who really gets me. Hoping this is my last update, as I'm moving on with my life. Thanks for following along, and if you haven't yet, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more real life stories.